How Japanese stop sarcopenia after 60. No gym or shakes. That's something I'm going to talk about today, so stick around. Hi, my name is Hachiaki Takamiya, a 63-year-old biohacker based on Japanese natural health and the author of Live Wiser, Not Smarter. Sarcopenia is another issue we face after 60. In the last video, I shared with you about bone health, that injuries from falling are one of the major causes of death among senior citizens. But the strong bone doesn't prevent falling itself. It prevents bone fracture. In case if you fall, if you have a stronger bone, it can prevent bone fracture. But to prevent falling itself, you need muscle strength. So today, muscle is considered to be very important in the field of health and longevity. Many influencers talk about muscles and protein. Often, muscles and protein are the same. But when you see it everywhere and when it is stressed so much, you become wonder if there's anything going on. Because remember, I shared with you the new American dietary guideline, this food pyramid, the proteins emphasized. By the way, apparently, out of 9 scientific review authors for the new dietary guidelines, at least 7 had industry ties. The authors declared receiving research funding or other compensation from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, the Texas Beef Council, General Mills, and National Dairy Council, and the National Pork Board, among other companies. So what about the protein business? It's a huge business. The protein powder, protein bars, everywhere. It is a $15 billion industry. And how about fitness industry? It is $30 billion industry. So if you're talking about big food or big pharma, you can also talk about big protein and big fitness. So I just wonder if there's any influence from those industries at all. I'm not saying there is, but I just wonder about it. So today, let's look at another country where probably you don't see that kind of ties with big industry, and that is Japan. Because, for example, when you talk about fitness industry, fitness culture is not huge in Japan. Gym culture is very small in Japan compared to that of the United States. And let's look at one region in Japan, Kyotango, which has 3 times as many centenarians as the Japanese national average. So this is the new longevity hotspot in Japan. Now, Japan is considered to have 2 or 3 times more centenarians than most countries. But Kyotango has 3 times more than the Japanese national average. That means this is an incredibly long-living region. And unlike other blue zone locations, the research is ongoing. It's a pretty new research. All the blue zone places, you're looking at their dietary patterns or exercise routines 50 years ago. But for the case of Kyotango, it is a present situation. So there is a study called Kyotango Longevity Cohort Study taking place. And it started in 2017, pretty recent and still ongoing. As a matter of fact, last year in 2025, there was a World Longevity Summit held there. And at the summit, they gave some dietary recommendation and exercise recommendation. But they are not weightlifting and protein shakes. And also in Japan, Japanese natural health practitioners don't recommend weightlifting so much. So, how Japanese stop muscle loss or train muscles to increase health span without using the gyms and protein shakes? That's what I'll be sharing with you today. So first, I'll talk about why we need muscles as we age and why Japanese natural health practitioners caution against weightlifting, the best diet for muscle health, the best exercises for muscle health. So please watch the video until the end. For those of you who just discovered this video today, this is the Ikigai diet channel, which is about how to increase health span for people over 50 or 60. I am the author of 4 books. I usually cover things like diet, exercise, mindset, and anything else that is related to increasing health span. So if you're over 50 or 60 and interested in health span extension, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Okay, why we need muscles as we age? First of all, the shock absorber, joint and bone protection. In our last session, we discussed bone health. Muscle is the partner to those bones. Muscles act as shock absorbers for your joint. They take the pressure off your knees and hips. Sarcopenia is the leading cause of falls. A fall after 70 is often the beginning of a decline. Strong muscles mean balance, stability, and the ability to catch yourself if you stumble. Then, the glucose sink, metabolic harmony. Muscle is your body's primary sink for blood sugar. Approximately 80% of post-meal glucose is cleared by skeletal muscle. As we age, if we lose muscle, we lose our ability to manage sugar. This leads to the trap of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. More muscle means a more resilient metabolism. And then the internal pharmacy, myokines. Muscle is an endocrine organ. Every time you move, your muscles secrete messengers called myokines. Myokines travel through the bloodstream to the brain and heart. Myokines reduce systematic inflammation, improve brain function, preventing brain fog, and even help fight cancer cells. When you stop moving, your internal pharmacy closes down. Okay, what daily movement in old age do we need muscles for? First of all, walking. We want to be able to continue walking even after 80 and 90 if you want to be mobile within your house and maybe going to the neighboring stores and so on. And that includes walking up and down the stairs if possible. I mean, you can kind of live without that. For example, you can use escalators or elevators. That is possible, but that will limit your mobility. If you can still maintain an ability to walk up and down the stairs, you become more mobile and you become freer. And doing any kind of house chore, you need to be able to squat down and get up. That includes getting up of a chair or getting out of the bed and so on. So those basic daily movement is something you want to be able to keep doing. And if you have a garden, you might do things like a hoe. That means you need some upper body strength. But I don't think you need to be able to take part in any athletic activities. I mean, you can if you want to, but that is not necessary. Once you reach 80 or 90, I don't think you need to be able to do that. But you want to be able to move around, doing the basic daily movement. We need to distinguish the two because some influencers are talking about the ability to continue doing all those athletic activities even after 90s and 100. That will require a lot more different types of exercises. But do you need to do that? Because there's always a trade-off. If you put more time and energy into exercising, that means you'll have a less time to do on other things, which are also important to serve your life mission, like, maybe doing artistic activities or more intellectual activities and so on. So you want to know if this is a big priority for you. In fact, this way of thinking is still the part of the linear progress that I was talking about before. Instead, there is this circular harmony concept in Japan. Aging is not always bad. Aging can provide a lot of learning opportunities that you didn't have when you were younger. This concept of endless youth or continue to be young and powerful come from this linear mindset. If you shift the mindset of circular harmony, you can accept aging and you can embrace aging, the fact that you are getting weaker. But anyway, it's up to you. If you want to stay young in your 90s, just like we were in your 40s, that's your choice. But regardless of that, you need to be clear on the purpose of muscle building, what you need muscles for. That will determine your measures. Okay, why Japanese natural health practitioners caution against weightlifting? Now, when I say Japanese natural health practitioners, I'm talking about body workers like a Seitai practitioners or martial artists or the Budo practitioners like Aikido practitioners. So first, hardness versus suppleness, tension versus flow. In Seitai and Budo, the ideal muscle is like high quality rubber, soft and supple when relaxed, but instantly powerful when engaged. Heavy weights often create rigid muscle. These muscles stay partially contracted even at rest, leading to unnecessary tension. Rigid muscles act like a clamp on your blood vessels and nerves, restricting the flow of energy and circulation. Supple muscles built through natural movement act like a pump that assists the heart. Isolation versus integration, the war of movement. Gym culture is built on isolation. For example, a bicep curl or a leg extension. In the Japanese view, the body should move as a single or circle. When you strengthen one muscle in isolation, you create hotspots of strength that the rest of the body isn't coordinated with. This leads to blockages or friction. An isolated strong muscle often pulls on the joints and spine in a way that causes wear and tear, leading to chronic pain in old age. Remember, I shared with you about Ichiro, how he doesn't do heavy weight lifting and he focuses more on mobility movement. And that is similar with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He spent a lot of his exercise time doing mobility training and little time on heavy weight lifting. That's an interesting aspect you want to look into. Okay, the best diet for muscle health. Now, when I say best diet, of course, there isn't a such thing as the best diet. It changes depending on individual. But this is something I have landed upon after trying different types of diet and considering the type of diet we practice in Japan too. So I wouldn't say this is the best, but this is pretty good diet for muscle health. First of all, let me share with you the recommendation given at the World Longevity Summit in Kyotango. By the way, many of the senior citizens in Kyotango region don't have sarcopenia. They have a little sarcopenia. So, plant-based protein and fiber are recommended because for protein sources, many of the senior citizens in Kyotango hardly eat meat. They eat mostly seafood and beans, and seaweed, root vegetables, and mixed grain rice that are rich in fiber. So according to Dr. Naito, who is one of the researchers at this Kyotango longevity cohort study, but also he's a leading expert on gut microbiome in Japan. So he says red meat increases harmful gut bacteria, especially fat. Instead, it is better to consume plant-based sources, seafood, and chicken for protein sources. That is his view. But in general, in Japan, the consensus among many experts in Japan is that the ratio of your protein sources should be one from plant and one from animal. So 50% from plant, 50% from animal. So plant-based sources are not as stressed as Dr. Naito, but still a big part of your diet. And that kind of makes sense because it is risk distribution. Both plant sources and animal sources have pros and cons. If you're sourcing your protein from only one type, you may have a risk. But by having a balanced diet, you can distribute your risk. So it makes sense. It's a kind of common sense, really. And then for me, among the 50% of your protein sources from animal, half should come from fish and half should come from eggs and chicken. That will be the optimal protein sources. So 50% from plant, 25% from fish, and 25% from eggs and chicken, and a little red meat too. To understand why this is the optimal ratio, let's look at two aspects. One is protein absorption, and the other is muscle protein synthesis. So first, let's look at protein absorption. This is the process of breaking down the protein you eat into smaller units called amino acid, and then moving these amino acids from your digestive system into your bloodstream. Think of it like taking raw materials, amino acid, from your diet and getting them ready to be used by the body. This primarily happens in your intestine. So the gut is where nutrients are absorbed. If you have a leaky gut, you're not absorbing protein sufficiently, even if you have a high protein intake. The intake of protein should be considered in conjunction with gut health. And animal-based protein and fat are considered to feed harmful gut bacteria, especially fat. And also casein in dairy product can be a cause of a leaky gut. Instead, fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria. So if you want to optimize your gut health, it is better to consume more plant-based protein sources so that they combine both protein and fiber, and you're not feeding harmful gut bacteria. So fiber is important. But how much fiber do you need per day? What is the RDA for fiber? WHO recommends 25 grams of fiber per day, which is a lot of amount. And most people are deficient in fiber intake. So if you source your protein mostly from animal, you are getting a little fiber in your diet unless you eat a lot of vegetables and fruits and whole grains. But there is a limit in your space of how much food you can eat. So I don't think it is easy to gain 25 grams of fiber if you are sourcing your protein mostly from animal sources. But if you source your protein from plant, then you can take both protein and fiber at the same time. Therefore, you have a higher chance of meeting this 25-gram fiber requirement for the day. About the fish, among the animal-based protein sources, fish is a little different because it contains omega-3 fatty acid, which are good for the gut health. Also, fish has many of the benefits of animal-based protein. So it's a good idea to include some fish in your diet. Now, let's look at another element that is muscle protein synthesis. This is the process where your body uses those absorbed amino acids to build new protein. These new proteins have various roles, such as building and repairing muscles, creating enzymes, hormones, and other important molecules. Think of it like using the raw materials, amino acid in your blood, to construct something new, like building a wall with bricks. This process happens throughout your body in your cells. Nutrients that support muscle protein synthesis are, of course, protein, but not only that. Vitamin B6, folate, vitamin C, vitamin D, magnesium, and zinc. Some of the nutrients are important for the bone health that I shared with you in the last video as well. So, muscle does not equal protein. For your muscle, of course you need protein, but you need other nutrients and you need strength training. You need exercise. In fact, if you have a high protein diet and not exercising, there is not much point. Okay, so what does vitamin B6 do? It plays a vital role in protein metabolism, helping to break down proteins into amino acid and aiding in the conversion of amino acid into simpler forms that can be used to build muscle. It's directly linked to the rate at which the body can grow muscles and recover. The type of food that include vitamin B6 is poultry, fish, bananas, chickpeas, beef liver, potatoes, especially sweet potatoes, avocado, carrots, spinach, milk, and eggs. So some from plants, some from animals. For the Magoa Yasashi Koku categories, fish, bananas, chickpeas, potatoes, avocado, carrots, and spinach. Those of you who don't know about Magoya Sashi Koku, they are beans, go nuts and seeds, wa seaweeds, ya vegetables, sa fish, si mushrooms, e tubers, ko whole grains, ku fruit. They're healthy dietary guidelines in Japan. Folate. It's necessary for nucleic acid and mitochondrial protein synthesis and amino acid metabolism, which are all crucial for building proteins. Leafy green vegetables, beans and legumes, asparagus, broccoli, avocado, citrus fruit, wheat germs, eggs, and liver. They're all from Magoa Yasashi Koku categories. Vitamin C. It is vital for the normal synthesis of various proteins, including collagen. It acts as a cofactor for enzymes involved in the post-translational hydroxylation of protein and lysine, which are incorporated into proteins in supporting tissues. Citrus fruit, bell peppers, especially red and yellow, strawberries, kiwi, tomatoes, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, and white potatoes. They're all from Magoa Yasashi Koku categories. Vitamin D. Studies suggest that supplementing with vitamin D can enhance muscle protein synthesis, particularly when combined with protein and leucine. Now, vitamin D supports your bone health as well, as I talked about in the last video. Fatty fish, fish liver oils, egg yolks, mushrooms exposed to UV light. Magnesium. It is required for protein synthesis as it activates amino acid and aids in protein biosynthesis through enzymatic reactions. It's also important for ATP production, which fuels protein synthesis. Seaweeds, leafy greens, nuts, seeds, legumes, whole grains, dark chocolate, avocados, bananas, tofu, and natto. They are all from Magoa Yasashi Koku categories. Zinc. It is involved in protein synthesis, DNA synthesis, and cell division, all of which are essential for building and repairing tissues. It also acts as an enzyme activator in many biological processes, including metabolism and digestion, which indirectly support protein synthesis. Oysters, red meat, poultry, beans and legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains, dairy products, and eggs. So some from Magoya Sashi Koku and some from meat, dairy, and eggs. So Magoa Yasashi Koku seem to be the answer. If you eat ingredient from Magoa Yasashi Koku categories as much as possible, diverse ingredient from those categories, then you are getting sufficient amount of nutrient for muscle protein synthesis, and also you can support your gut health at the same time. So in many ways, the food circle I shared with you before will be a good dietary guideline. Okay, the best exercises for muscle health. Again, this is the best exercises that I have landed upon. It doesn't mean it is the best exercises for you. You need to find your own regimen that works the best for you. So first, again, let's look at the recommendation by this World Longevity Summit in Kyoto. They recommended walking Gupa Taiso, which means hand open and close exercise, and radio Taiso. Walking, because walking speed is one determining factor to measure your health span. And hand open and close exercise, because grip strength is another factor to measure your health span. And radio Taiso is this kind of dynamic stretching, which are good for mobility and flexibility. So it is interesting that they're not recommending weightlifting. Okay, but how about my recommendation? Because my recommendation is a little different. So based on what I have studied and what I have personally tried, I have landed upon set of exercises that are optimal for me. But before that, what is recommended internationally? So let's look at the international recommendation for muscle strengthening. Engage major muscle groups at least 2 days a week using activity like lifting weights, resistant bands, or body weight exercises. Therefore, so-called strength training using weight machines, free weights, resistant bands, or body weight. Personally, I like to do body weight training because that is more recommended by Japanese natural health practitioners. Body weight training are mostly compound training, not isolation exercise. First one I do is squat. Squat is very easy and simple. You can do it anywhere. You can do it at home, in the park, and you don't need any equipment. That is one thing I like about this type of exercise. So easy and simple, and it doesn't cost any money. You can see I have no ties with gym industry. And then push-ups, again, you can do it for free and you can do it anywhere. It's simple and easy. And it requires only your body weight. Therefore, you do not develop one muscle disproportionately. It is a compound movement. And this is a good rehearsal in case if you fall, because when you fall, to support your body, you need to do exactly this kind of movement. Then I do pull-ups, chin-ups, and dead hang. So you do need a pull-up bar to do that. So it's a little more difficult than doing other body weight training. But if you have access to it, I recommend it highly because it is more strenuous than doing the push-up, but still it is a body weight training. And you can strengthen your spine. So it's a good posture exercise as well. And it is a great exercise for strengthening your grip strength, one of the determining factors of your health span. Then I do heel raise and walking up and down the stairs. This is a great rehearsal for your old age too, because you want to be able to walk up and down the stairs. So this is precisely what you're doing. So instead of training for something, just do that movement. That is the best way. And I do box jump. As I said in the last video about bone health, this is a wonderful weight-bearing exercise. When you run, it has a high impact on the bones, even stronger than when you jog. But also, it is a great strength training because you do use your leg muscles to jump. And it is explosive exercise, which is actually very useful to preventing falls because when you stumble, you need to react quickly, and that requires this kind of explosive power. For the same reason, I do sprint. This is a wonderful weight-bearing exercise, strength training, and explosive exercise. And it is a compound training. You're using both legs and arms. And the exercise in motion. It's not like isolated training or you're lying on a bench and lifting a weight. This is the natural movement. That's how wild animals train, by just moving around. In fact, that is precisely what the centenarians in blue zones have been doing. They do not work out. They just keep moving. They just continue doing things they do, such as walking or gardening. Like in Sardinia, Italy, many of them are shepherds. They walk up and down the hills every day and they work in their garden. What they did was not lifting weights, but they just continued moving, whatever the movement is. But you can do the same in modern life too. Just keep moving, whatever that is. You can continue brisk walking, jogging, running, playing tennis or other kind of racket sports, or dancing. Those are all fantastic exercise in motion. In Ikaria, Greece, they do a lot of dancing, so I'm sure dancing is definitely one of their secrets. And I practice Qigong too. This is a great balance training, but it can be strength training because you do that while you're standing. I make sure to do some stretching after strength training. It is very important to make your body flexible. I do a lot of rolling my shoulder, rolling joint, rolling waist, rolling knees, and so on, including your toes. So cross training is something I recommend. Do different kind of movement across the week. And I exercise in the morning so that I can combine with the morning sunlight exposure. That means I can absorb vitamin D. Then, as a post-workout meal, I have this breakfast, which is natto salad and soy yogurt muesli. This is actually high protein breakfast. So natto salad contains 10.66 gram of protein and soy yogurt muesli contains 26.4 gram of protein. So altogether 36.70 gram of protein. So it is protein rich, fiber rich, and probiotic rich with natto bacteria and bifidobacteria. But anyway, that is my exercise regimen. It doesn't mean you should do the same. You should design your own because everything should be designed based on your fitness level. For example, I don't recommend sprinting. Sprinting can be dangerous. It can increase risk of falling. So based on your fitness level, you want to find the one that is suitable to you. Okay, summary. Muscle can protect joints and bones. Muscle can be your glucose sink. Muscle can be your internal pharmacy. Japanese natural health practitioners caution against weightlifting because heavy weights often create rigid muscles, but you want to have supple muscles. Also, gym culture is built on isolation exercises, and you can develop one muscle disproportionately to other parts. You want to think about other nutrients than just protein, such as vitamin B6, folate, vitamin C, vitamin D, magnesium, and zinc for muscle protein synthesis, and fiber for protein absorption. To achieve the 25 gram of fiber RDA, you want to source your protein mostly from plants and some from fish, chicken, and eggs. Eat mago wa yasashi koku. At the first World Longevity Summit in Kyotango, they recommended walking, hand open and close exercise, and radio taiso, dynamic stretching, not weight lifting. I personally do body weight strength training such as squats, push-ups, pull-ups, chin-ups, heel raises, box jumps, and sprints. Compound training and cross-training with diverse movements are recommended. But an exercise regimen should be individualized based on one's fitness level, so I recommend that you design your own. I exercise in the morning to combine with morning sunlight exposure and vitamin D absorption. Then, as a post-workout meal, I have a high-protein, prebiotics, and probiotics breakfast. Anyway, to understand exercises and diet holistically, I recommend that you read my book, Live Wiser, Not Smarter, which covers everything you need to do to increase your health span, including diet, fasting, exercise, heat and cold exposure, sleep, and brain optimization. Okay, thank you for watching. Again, my name is Hachiaki Takamiya, the author of Live Wiser, Not Smarter. If you like this video, please give me your thumb up and subscribe to my channel. And please leave your comment. What are your dietary regimen and exercise regimen for muscle health? Now, you may be wondering about how much protein you should take per day. I didn't talk about it today, but this is what I think. So please watch this video.